Listen carefully. This is not a story about defeat. It's not about surrender, and it's certainly not about weakness. No, this is the beginning of something far greater. Something they didn't see coming. They labeled you, didn't they? They called you fragile, passive, unworthy. They judged your quiet. They dismissed your stillness. They thought your silence was submission, but they misunderstood what was happening inside you. What looked like stillness was a storm brewing, and storms don't ask for permission to roar. You've been underestimated for too long. That's the truth, isn't it? They saw only what they wanted to see. A version of you that fit their narrative, one that made them feel powerful. They were so busy crafting their own illusion of control that they missed the deeper truth. You were never weak, and patience, real patience, is the most dangerous strength of all. It doesn't flash or boast. It waits, it gathers, it grows. It becomes unstoppable. They thought they knew you, thought they'd figured you out. But here's the thing, they never looked deeper. They didn't see the quiet resilience, the unshakable core. They didn't understand that patience is the strength of a seed buried beneath the dirt, enduring the weight of the earth, waiting for the perfect moment to break through and reach for the sun. They didn't see the fire simmering beneath the ashes, the predator lying in wait, conserving its energy for the exact moment to strike. They thought your stillness meant surrender, but you were just preparing for something greater. This is your wake-up call. You've been holding back, haven't you? Not because you lack courage, but because you knew it wasn't the right time. You've been gathering strength in the shadows, sharpening your edges where no one could see. And now, it's time for the world to understand what patience really means. Patience isn't weakness. Patience isn't passivity. Patience is power waiting for its moment. Let me tell you something about storms. They don't just appear out of nowhere. They form in silence. They build slowly, invisibly, piece by piece. You don't see the winds gathering strength until they're tearing through everything in their path. And you, my friend, are that storm. You've been underestimated because you chose to build in silence. You let them think they had the upper hand. You let them believe you were powerful, and that's their mistake. They mistook your patience for complacency. But now, it's time to show them what you've been building all along. You've heard their whispers, haven't you? Felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on you like chains. They thought your silence meant you had nothing left to say. They thought your stillness meant you were stuck. But they don't know what you know. They don't know that patience is a force, a gathering storm, a weapon sharper than any blade. They don't know the power that comes from waiting for the right moment. The strength it takes to hold back when every fiber of your being wants to lash out. You know that strength, don't you? You've lived it. You've felt it growing inside you, quietly, steadily, unstoppable. So here's the question. What are you going to do now? Are you going to keep letting their words define you? Are you going to let their judgment hold you back? Or are you ready to unleash the storm you've been holding inside? Because let me tell you something, they aren't ready. They never were. They thought they broke you, thought they silenced you, thought they won. But the truth is they've been standing on borrowed time. Your time is coming. And when it does, they'll realize too late what patience really looks like. This is your moment. This is where everything changes. They thought you were weak, but you were just patient. And now it's your time to rise. Let's start where it hurts, because I know it does. And you've carried the weight of their words for far too long, haven't you? Like chains wrapped tight around your spirit, their judgments have pressed against you, suffocating, relentless. It's not just the things they said aloud, the laughter, the insults, the whispers that trailed behind you. It's the silence that cut even deeper. The moments they looked past you like you didn't matter, the times they pretended you didn't exist. You've felt invisible in a room full of people, unheard when you've screamed silently for someone, anyone, to understand. You've walked through days where every step felt heavy, like you were dragging the weight of their doubt behind you. And their words, they didn't just land on your ears, they burrowed into your mind, repeating themselves in the quiet moments when you were left alone with your thoughts. You're not enough, you'll never be enough. Their voices grew louder even when they weren't in the room. They echoed in your silence, didn't they? Their laughter fueled your fear, their doubt became your own. There were moments you started to believe them. Be honest. You've stood in front of a mirror and questioned everything about yourself. Am I too soft? Too slow? Too quiet? Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't have what it takes. The weight of that doubt crushed you, didn't it? It made you second guess every move, every choice. You wondered if you were destined to be overlooked, ignored, discarded. They saw your patience, your calm, and they called it weakness. And after hearing it enough times, you started to wonder if they were right. But here's what they didn't see, what they couldn't see. They didn't see the strength it took to carry all that weight and still keep going. They didn't see the quiet resilience in you, the grit that refused to crumble no matter how much they tried to break you. You've been walking a road that feels endless, uphill, exhausting, and they've done everything they could to make you feel like you don't belong, like you're not worthy of reaching the top. But let me tell you something. They don't get to decide how this story ends. You do. Your life has felt like a battlefield, hasn't it? But not the kind where you stand armed and ready. No, it's felt like being thrust into the middle of chaos without a weapon, surrounded by enemies who are louder, stronger, more ruthless. You've stood there, unarmed, defenseless, wondering how you're supposed to survive. And yet, you have. You're still here. Barely, maybe. But you're here. You've known rejection. You've knocked on doors that refuse to open. You've poured your heart into things, into people, and watched them walk away without a second glance. You've given everything only to be met with nothing in return. It stings, doesn't it? The way rejection doesn't just close a door, it slams it in your face, leaving you standing there, bruised and bewildered. You've known loneliness too, haven't you? The kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from being surrounded by people who don't see you. You've sat in crowded rooms feeling like a ghost, your presence unnoticed, your voice unheard. You've reached out only to feel your hand grasping at air. And the worst part, it's made you question your worth. If no one sees me, if no one cares, does it even matter if I'm here? For what? It's exhausting, isn't it? This constant struggle to prove yourself, to them, to yourself, to the world. It's like walking through a desert with no end in sight. The sun beats down, the ground burns your feet, and every step feels harder than the last. You're thirsty for something, validation, recognition, relief, but it feels just out of reach. You've wanted to stop, to sit down in the sand and let it swallow you whole, but something in you keeps going, doesn't it? Even when every part of you is screaming to give up. You keep putting one foot in front of the other. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's the fire they can't see. Now let's call it what it is. The villain in your story. It's not just the people who doubted you, dismissed you, or underestimated you. It's bigger than that. It's the voices they planted in your head. The whispers that turned into roars. The fear that's been holding you back, chaining you down. Fear is the villain here. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And it's a sneaky one, isn't it? It disguises itself, makes you believe it's protecting you. But in reality, it's been keeping you small. Society didn't help either, did it? It has a way of telling us what strength is supposed to look like. Loud, bold, relentless. It tells us that if we're not constantly moving, constantly achieving, constantly seen, we're failing. And you didn't fit their mold. You weren't loud enough for them. Well, you didn't play their game, and so they dismissed you. They mocked your restraint, mistook your stillness for surrender. But that's because they didn't understand what patience really is. Here's the truth they don't want to admit. Patience terrifies them, because patience is power. It's the kind of power that can't be rushed, can't be shaken, can't be destroyed. It's the kind of power that waits in the shadows, observing, growing, preparing. They couldn't see the fire you were building beneath it all because they were too busy looking for flames. But you were the spark, waiting to ignite. You were the seed waiting to break through the dirt. They told you patience was weakness because they were scared of what would happen when you realized it wasn't. They mocked your restraint because they couldn't comprehend the strength it took to hold back, to wait for the right moment. They mistook your stillness for defeat because they couldn't imagine the storm that was building inside you. But storms don't ask for permission, do they? Come when they're ready. And you're almost ready. The villain is the doubt they've tried to instill in you, the fear they've fed, the societal pressure to be something you're not. But here's what I need you to understand. Villains don't win. Not in your story, not anymore. It's time to face that fear, silence those voices, and rewrite the narrative. They don't get to define you. They don't get to decide your worth. You do. And the moment you realize that is the moment the game changes. Because you've been patient, and patience, when understood, is unstoppable. Let's go deeper, into the shadows where you rarely dare to look, because I know you've been there, standing at the edge of your own despair. It's the kind of darkness that creeps in when the world grows quiet. It's not loud or sudden. No, despair is slow. It seeps into your thoughts, wraps itself around your dreams, and whispers, "What's the point?" You've felt it, haven't you? The heavy weight pressing on your chest when you wake up, the sinking feeling that maybe today won't be any different from yesterday. It's the voice in your head that says, "This is all there is. You'll never rise." It tells you that your dreams were foolish, that the effort isn't worth it, that the fight is too hard. And maybe, just maybe, you've started to believe it. Think about what happens if you stay here, if you let despair win. Those dreams you once held so close, they begin to fade, don't they? The bright, vibrant visions you had of your future grow dim, then distant, and finally they disappear altogether. You convince yourself they were never possible in the first place. Who was I kidding, you tell yourself? I was never going to make it. And with every dream that dies, a piece of you fades with it. It doesn't stop there, does it? Despair doesn't just steal your dreams, it takes your self-belief too. You start to question everything about yourself. Every failure feels bigger, every misstep feels heavier. You replay your mistakes on a loop, each one louder than the last. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. These thoughts aren't just whispers anymore. They're a deafening roar that drowns out everything else. And regret? It's always there, lurking in the background. The what-ifs haunt you. What if you had tried harder? What if you had spoken up? What if you hadn't let fear hold you back? Regret is the cruelest part of despair because it doesn't let you rest. It keeps you tethered to the past, unable to move forward, unable to let go. This is what happens if you stay here. The dreams fade, the self-belief withers, and regret grows like a vine, choking out any chance of hope. You find yourself in a place where the weight of it all feels unbearable, where the thought of taking another step feels impossible. And yet, here you are. You're still standing, barely maybe, but you haven't given up. Not yet. I see you. I see the weight you're carrying, the scars you've collected along the way. And I'm not going to tell you to ignore them, to pretend they don't exist. Because they do. They're real, and they hurt. I know the battles you've fought. I know the nights you've spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're strong enough to keep going. I know the days you've spent feeling invisible, unheard, unwanted. I know the moments you've doubted everything about yourself. And let me tell you this, you are not weak for feeling this way. You are not broken because you've been in pain. Pain is part of the story, but it's not the whole story. Those scars you carry, they're not signs of defeat. They're proof that you've survived. They're reminders of the battles you've fought and the strength it took to make it through. They're the story of every time you've fallen and found a way to get back up, even when you thought you couldn't. Let me say this clearly. You are not defined by your pain. You are not defined by your mistakes, your failures, or the moments you've doubted yourself. They're chapters in your story, yes, but they're not the ending. The darkness you've felt, it doesn't have to be your forever. It's a place you've been, not a place you're meant to stay. I know it's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of it. When the weight feels unbearable, when every step feels harder than the last, it's hard to imagine a way out. But here's the thing, you've been here before, haven't you? You've felt this weight, this pain. And yet, somehow, you're still here. You've made it through every bad day, every tough moment, every time you thought you couldn't take one more step. You've made it through 100% of your hardest moments. That's not a coincidence. That's strength. Your pain is real, but it's not your prison. It's a part of your journey, not your destination. And those scars you carry, they don't make you weak. They make you human. They're the proof that even when the world tried to break you, you refused to shatter. Even when the darkness tried to consume you, you found a way to hold on to the tiniest sliver of light. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one who's felt this way. And you're not the only one who's found a way out. There's a path forward, even if you can't see it yet. It's there, waiting for you. And when you're ready, you'll take that first step. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that you take it. Because here's the truth. You are not defined by your despair. You are defined by what you do next. And you've got more strength in you than you realize. It's time to stop letting the darkness dictate your story. It's time to take back the pen and start writing a new chapter. One step at a time, one breath at a time. You've got this, and I'll be here to remind you every step of the way. Let me tell you something about the quiet moments, the ones where you felt stuck, invisible, forgotten. Those weren't moments of weakness. Those weren't moments of failure. Those were moments of transformation. What they called waiting was really you sharpening your edge. What they called inaction was really you gathering strength. They couldn't see it because they weren't meant to. But you've been preparing, building, becoming. You've heard the lies they told about patience, haven't you? They said it was passive, that it meant you weren't willing to fight. But patience isn't passive, it's calculated. Patience is a weapon, and only the strongest can wield it. It takes power to hold back when the world tells you to rush forward. It takes courage to stay still while others run in circles, wasting their energy on battles that don't matter. Yeah, that's a battle that's strong. But don't let your back be squeaked. You have to know when to fight. You didn't rush because you knew the truth. The right moment always comes to those who wait. Think about a blade being forged. The metal doesn't become sharp in an instant. It endures the fire, the hammering, the grinding. It's a slow process, one that requires heat, pressure, and time. And you've been in that fire. You've felt the pressure. You've endured the grind. But all of it was shaping you, refining you, turning you into something unbreakable. They called it inaction, but you were simply becoming the weapon you were meant to be. And now you're standing on the edge of something powerful. All that waiting, all that preparation, it wasn't wasted. It was necessary. The storms you've weathered, the scars you've earned, the strength you've built in the shadows, they've all been leading to this moment. A moment when you'll prove them wrong, a moment when you'll rise, not because of what they said, but in spite of it. They thought your patience was a flaw, but it's your greatest strength. And I think all of you should resent them. To shift the world of peace, to break the feudal system, split the world in two. And now, it's time to use it. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a seed buried deep in the earth. To the outside world, it looks like nothing, just a small, insignificant thing hidden beneath the surface. But under the soil, something incredible is happening. The seed isn't stagnant, it's growing, slowly, quietly. It's stretching its roots, gathering nutrients, building the foundation it needs to break through. And when the time is right, it bursts through the soil, reaching for the sun with a force no one expected. Master Divinity, that seed, that's you. They thought you were buried, but you were just preparing to bloom. Or imagine a predator in the wild. It doesn't waste its energy chasing after every opportunity. It waits, it observes, it calculates. In its stillness, it gathers strength. It watches for the perfect moment, the one where the odds are in its favor. And when that moment comes, it moves with precision, striking with a force that's unstoppable. And then when such a moment comes, that's when you take the leap and scoff at all the letters after my new name. That's what patience looks like. It's not weakness, it's strategy. And you've been the predator, lying in wait, building your power, ready to strike when the moment demands it. Resilience isn't about avoiding the struggle, it's about enduring it, growing through it, becoming stronger because of it. Think of a tree standing tall in the midst of a storm. The wind tries to break it, the rain tries to drown it, but the tree doesn't fall. Its roots dig deeper, its trunk grows stronger, its branches bend, but they don't break. That's what you've been doing. The storms in your life weren't meant to destroy you, they were meant to deepen your roots, to make you unshakable. Your silence, it wasn't emptiness, it wasn't surrender, it was the calm before the storm. It was the predator watching, the seed growing, the blade being forged. It was strength in disguise, and now that silence is about to turn into a roar. They don't see it yet, but they will, because you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And when you finally rise, the world will understand the power of patience. The world will understand the power of patience. The last point in my notes rang very true. If you're anxious, you are missing the thing. Now comes the turning point, the moment when you realize the truth they never wanted you to see. You're not weak. You've never been weak. You've been waiting. And there's a power in patience that terrifies those who doubt it. They've spent so much time trying to keep you down, trying to convince you that your silence meant surrender, that they never stopped to wonder what might happen if you rose. And now they're about to find out. Think back to all the times they dismissed you, all the moments they overlooked your strength. They thought they had you figured out, but patience, it's not something they understand. They don't know the strength it takes to hold back, to endure, to prepare. They don't know the fire that's been building inside you, slowly, steadily, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And now, that moment is here. Look at yourself. Really look. You're still standing, aren't you? Despite everything they've thrown at you, despite the storms and the scars, you're still here. And that's not weakness. That's resilience. That's power. That's proof that patience isn't about giving up. It's about refusing to rush the process. It's about knowing that when your time comes, you'll be ready. And your time, it's here. They're not ready for you. They've spent so long believing their own lies about you that they'll never see you coming. They don't realize that the person they dismissed, the one they underestimated, is about to rise with a force they can't comprehend. And when you do, they'll understand that patience isn't just a virtue, it's a weapon. And you've spent a lifetime sharpening yours. Now, let's flip this. Let's take everything they've thrown at you, all the rejection, the doubt, the pain, and turn it into fuel. Every delay, every setback, every moment they doubted you, it wasn't a failure, it wasn't wasted, it was preparation. It was the foundation you needed to build something unbreakable. And now, you have a choice. Are you going to let their doubt define you, or are you going to use it to rise? Here's the truth they don't want you to see. Every time they tried to hold you back, they were unknowingly setting you up for something greater. Every no was a lesson. Every rejection was redirection. Every moment of silence was an opportunity to grow. They thought they were burying you, but all they were doing was giving you the space to build your roots. And now, you're ready to break through. Reframe your struggles. They weren't setbacks. They were setups. Setups for your comeback, your rise, your transformation. The things they thought would break you only made you stronger. The pain they inflicted didn't destroy you, it forged you. And now, you have everything you need to prove them wrong. Not with words, not with vengeance, but with the life you're about to build. Because here's the truth. Patience is the ultimate power. It's what separates those who survive from those who thrive. It's what turns scars into armor, pain into purpose, doubt into determination. And you've been patient long enough. Now it's time to rise. It's time to show them what patience really looks like. And when you do, they'll finally understand they were never ready for you. This is it, the moment everything changes. The moment you stop living in the shadows of their doubt and step into the light of your truth. The moment you realize that every battle, every setback, every scar has been leading to this. Getting closer to every mirror on your cells, you can let go of them. You're awakening. Let me ask you, are you going to let them win? Are you going to let their voices drown out your truth? Are you going to let their doubt define you? Or are you going to rise? Because here's the thing, they don't get to decide. They never did. This is your story, your life, your journey, and you've been waiting long enough to take the pen back into your hands. They said you were weak. They said you couldn't do it. They told you to stay small, stay silent, stay out of the way. But they don't know you, do they? They don't know the fire that's been burning inside you, quietly, steadily, waiting for its moment. They don't know the strength it takes to endure, to wait, to prepare. But you know, you've lived it, you've built it, and now it's time to unleash it. What are you going to do with everything they threw at you? Will you carry it like a burden, or will you use it as fuel? Will you let it weigh you down, or will you let it propel you forward? The choice is yours. But let me tell you this, you've spent too long doubting yourself. You've spent too long letting their voices take up space in your mind. It's time to drown them out with your truth, your power, your rise. Are you ready? Are you ready to step into the life you were meant to live? Are you ready to stop holding back? Stop apologizing for your strength. Stop waiting for permission to be who you are. Because no one's going to hand it to you. You have to take it. You have to claim it. You have to rise, and when you do, everything changes. The doubts fade. The scars transform. The pain becomes purpose. You are not the same person they underestimated. You are not the person they tried to break. You are the storm they never saw coming, the force they never believed could exist. And now you have a choice. Stay where you are or rise into who you're meant to be. What will it be? Patience isn't passive. It never was. It's power in disguise, a quiet strength that grows in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to emerge. And that moment, it's now. The look in his eyes went 50 shades of self-consciousness, then it shifted to wistfulness, followed by a blank stare. Now's the time to take everything you've learned, everything you've endured, and turn it into action. Think about the scars you carry, the ones they tried to make you ashamed of, the ones you've tried to hide. Those scars, they're not marks of failure, they're armor. They're proof of your survival, your resilience, your strength. They're a reminder that no matter how many times life knocked you down, you got back up. And now it's time to wear them proudly, to let them show the world what you've been through and what you've overcome. Let every little thing that you've been through make you who your mommy is. She's who you are. Their doubt, it's your fuel. Every time they told you that you couldn't, that you wouldn't, they were adding to the fire inside you. They thought they were extinguishing it, but they were only feeding it. And now that fire is unstoppable. It's time to let it burn, to use it to propel yourself forward, to prove, not to them, but to yourself, that you are more than they ever imagined. Action doesn't have to be big at first. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to start. Take one step, then another, then another. And with each step, you'll feel the weight of their words start to lift. With each step, you'll feel your power returning, your confidence growing, your truth shining brighter. This isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about reclaiming everything they tried to take from you. Turn your pain into your power. Turn your setbacks into your foundation. Turn your silence into a roar. This is your moment to act, to build, to rise. Because patience wasn't about waiting for someone to save you. It was about preparing to save yourself. And now you're ready. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture this, the day you finally rise. The day you stand tall, unshaken by their doubts, untouched by their judgments. Imagine the look on their faces when they see the person you've become. Mantras for success. The mantras have kept their secrets of life from you, signaling you have no power, signaling you tame, not the person they thought you were, but the person you've always been. Strong, resilient, unstoppable. Imagine proving them wrong. Not with words, not with arguments, but with the life you build. A life that shines so brightly it leaves no room for their shadows. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of purpose, a sense of power, knowing that you are exactly who you're meant to be. No apologies, no regrets, just you, standing in the fullness of your truth. Think about what that life looks like. A life where you no longer hide your scars but wear them as a badge of honor. A life where their whispers can't touch you. where their doubts bounce off you like rain on steel. A life where you are unshaken, unbroken, unafraid. That life is possible, it's waiting for you, and the only thing standing between you and that life is the decision to rise. So what's stopping you? Fear? Doubt? Let me tell you something about those. They're illusions. They only have power if you give it to them. The grip grows stronger. Take that power back, take your life back, because the future you're imagining, it's real. It's within your reach, and the moment you decide to rise is the moment it becomes yours. Picture this, the day you finally look back at everything you've been through and realize it was all worth it. The struggles, the pain, the waiting, it wasn't for nothing. It was the foundation for everything you've built. And when that day comes, you'll see yourself for who you truly are. Not weak, not broken, but powerful beyond measure. And they'll see it too. They'll see the storm they never saw coming. And you'll smile, knowing that you've always been enough. This is it. The moment you decide, the moment you choose to rise, the moment you refuse to let their doubts, their words, or your fears hold you back any longer. It's time to take control of your destiny. No one is coming to save you. But you don't need saving. What you need is to pick up the pieces of everything they tried to break and forge them into something unstoppable. So let me ask you, who are you going to be? Are you going to be the person they told you to be? Small, silent, forgotten? Or are you going to be the person you know you are? Bold, unbreakable, undeniable. This isn't a time to hesitate. This isn't a time to wait for permission. The world has enough people playing small. It needs someone like you to step forward and take your place. And that's not just a challenge, it's a call. Pick up the pieces. Every scar, every failure, every moment of doubt. They're not signs of weakness, they're building blocks. They're the raw materials for something extraordinary. The question is, what are you going to do with them? You can leave them where they are, scattered and forgotten, or you can gather them up and turn them into something the world has never seen before. Something that makes people stop and wonder how you did it. Something that shows everyone who doubted you just how wrong they were. It's time to rise. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because every moment you wait is another moment they win. And this isn't their story, it's yours. So stand up, take a step, show the world who you really are. Show them what happens when patience transforms into power, when scars become armor, and when silence turns into a roar. You're ready to rise, but let me tell you how to make that rise unstoppable. Kata, because this isn't just about inspiration, it's about action. It's about taking practical steps to overcome your struggles and step into your power. So here's your roadmap. Follow it, and nothing can hold you back. Start with self-belief. Everything begins with you. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. But belief isn't about being fearless or invincible. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you have what it takes to keep going. Start small. Remind yourself of the battles you've already won, the moments you've already survived. Every time you've fallen and gotten back up is proof of your strength. Hold on to that proof. Let it fuel your belief in what's possible. Build a vision. What does your future look like? Not the one they tried to impose on you, the one you want. Close your eyes and see it. Be specific. Where are you? What are you doing? How do you feel? Write it down. Make it real. Because once you have a vision, you have a destination. And with a destination, you can start mapping the steps to get there. Take consistent action. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed by the big picture. Just focus on the next step. Maybe it's having a tough conversation. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's simply getting out of bed and showing up. Whatever it is, do it. And then do the next thing. And the next. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum is unstoppable. Never stop growing. This isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning. Growth is a lifelong journey, and every step forward makes you stronger. Learn from your mistakes. Celebrate your victories. Stay curious. Stay hungry. Because the moment you stop growing is the moment you stop rising. And you're just getting started. Turn your scars into strength. Those scars you've been hiding, it's time to bring them into the light. Each one tells a story. Each one is proof that you've survived. And together they form a map of your resilience. Wear them proudly. Let them remind you and everyone else of what you've overcome. Because your scars aren't a weakness. They're your strength. They're your story. And your story is one of a comeback. Let me leave you with this. They thought you were weak. They thought your patience was passivity. Your silence was surrender. Your stillness was defeat. But they were wrong. They couldn't see what was building inside you. They couldn't see the storm forming, the fire growing, the strength being forged in the shadows. They couldn't see it because they weren't meant to. But now they will. Because storms don't ask for permission. They don't wait for approval. They arrive. And you are that storm. You are the force they underestimated, the power they couldn't comprehend. And now it's your time. Imagine standing in your truth, unshaken by their doubts, untouched by their words. Imagine waking up every day with the knowledge that you've risen, not in spite of your struggles, but because of them. Imagine the look on their faces when they see the person you've become. Not the person they thought you were, but the person you always knew you could be. This is your time, your moment, your story. They thought you were weak because they couldn't see the storm building inside you. But storms don't ask for permission, they arrive. And now, it's your time to rise. So rise. Rise into your power, rise into your truth. Rise into everything they said you couldn't be. Because you're not weak, you're unstoppable. And the world, it's about to find out.